Welcome everybody. This is No Bullshit Podcast, 2.5 Gamers with honest interview segment. We're back with interviews. We're asking tough questions, having fun, but also dropping knowledge with gaming industry people. And today we have Erik from Sisu Ventures over here. Welcome, and myself, Matej on the mic. So let's. How are you, Erik? In the first place.
Doing great, loving it. It's crazy times, right? A lot of changes in the industry. We can see macroeconomic changing for everybody. Inflation. So I think everyone's a little bit concerned. And on the other hand, there in times like these, that opportunities present themselves that are normally not there. So I think most awesome companies are built in
these times, right?
Yeah.
Well, definitely a lot of opportunities out there for sure. Let's start with like a brief introduction on your side. Can you tell? I mean, we know each other for some time, but can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Yes, so I'll try to be brief. It's not so easy because I've been in the game industry over 30 years now, so it's going to take a little bit of time to get through it, but I'll go quickly. So
okay, perfect.
I started in the late 80s making games on the Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo, where we had to rework the Genesis to get access to the code. We weren't a licensed developer or anything like that. So this is back in Norway, where I'm from originally, which then turned into Funcom, which is still around. I was the founder and CEO of Funcom, and was sold to Tencent last year.
Yep.
Took them private and acquired them. So I'm very proud of the fact that a company that I started 30 years ago still making games today. That's really cool. Even though I know the people there, but I'm not that much in touch with them. But after Funcom, I moved to the United States and was co-managing director of Looking Glass Studios, which is back then was a pretty famous studio. It's kind of nostalgia these days with the Thief series and System Shock 2 and some of these games that I think are still considered some of the games in the top 100 of all time. So at the time, very innovative and unique titles. So that was a lot of fun. And then I spent a couple of years learning what not to do in terms of being an entrepreneur, working at EA, very large teams, very short development cycles, a lot of wasted resources. But on the other hand, going through kind of like a car wreck in slow motion teaches you a lot. And it's difficult to explain how hard it is to run a really big team with a really short development cycle unless you've been in the middle of it. So I think that was really useful. And then in 2008, I came back to Europe, working with Samali, one of the co-founders of Sisu, for the first time. He had a studio that he had started that had gone a little bit sideways. They were struggling. So I helped him turn the team around. And then Epic came calling. They had a studio in Poland that had been in pre-production for a really long time on an awesome title called Bulletstorm. And they were looking for someone who could come in and turn that studio around. So I was a studio director there, which was super fun. I mean, that was a really fun game to work on, and I loved working with the people there. And then after that, I started noticing that I was playing more games on my phone than I was on my console.
Okay.
And I felt like free to play was something new and weird. I didn't necessarily like it. So I felt like I needed to expose myself to it to learn more about it. So I became the head of Disney's mobile division that was based in Prague, which was very interesting because when I talked to them, I pitched this idea of being like the Pixar within the Disney organization, where coming up with really awesome original IPs and great games, right? And they were like, yeah, that's exactly what we want. And then when I got there, it was more like, hey, can we take like the top three top grossing and reskin them with a Disney IP?
Perfect.
So, it wasn't as an exciting opportunity as I wanted it to be, but I learned a lot about free to play, and it sort of had a big impact on what I ended up doing after that. But
Mm.
first, I had one more big turnaround operation in me, and that was Take Two. They hired me as the president of 2K Czech,
Mm.
was working on Mafia 3, which was similar to Bulletstorm in that it was a really big team, been in pre-production for a really long time. They hadn't figured really out what the game was all about. And that was kind of the one thing that I saw throughout my career in broken studios, is that they lacked clarity of vision when it came to what the game was that they were
Mm.
working on. And that's really hard when you have 200 people working on your game and you walk around the hallways and you're asking people, so what's our game about? And you get like 200 different answers, then it's impossible to make something great. So the one technique that I used for all of the studios that I helped sort of turn themselves around was to get that clarity of vision, um, narrow it down as much as possible, even into like a short sentence or a few words, so that when you would ask 200 people, they would all have the same answer. So that when a team that makes hundreds of decisions per day are making them cohesively towards one big and clear vision, right? So that was the number one element. The second element was this concept of giving people autonomy.
Mm.
But that's really hard to do when nobody knows what you're making, right? So, but as soon as people understand what kind of game they're making, then autonomy becomes the rocket fuel for studios. So, after shipping Mafia 3, which took a really long time, took like 6 years, a lot of people, big budget, I decided that I wanted to try something very different. So, I helped four new
Mm.
studios get off the ground. I helped them clarify their vision, awesome company culture, find co-founders, and then I helped them raise money and get their game started, help them with publishing and basically everything. So that was super fun, and it was interesting because since I knew Somali, I pitched it to Sisu, and Sisu was first money in on two
Nice.
of those companies.
Okay.
Um, and then they were like, "Hey, Erik, we have a portfolio company over here. It's kind of struggling. I
Yeah.
remember you
Okay.
really helped out on one of my previous studios. Can you go there and help them out a little bit?" And so I did that, and I thought that was really fun. So I became an investor in Sisu 2. And then when Sisu decided to do the third fund, which is a much bigger fund, it's like a 10
Mm.
times bigger fund than the previous funds, they asked me if I wanted to join as a general manager, and it was obvious because I love starting companies, as you know.
Yep.
And when you're an investor, you kind of get the enthusiasm and the excitement of being an entrepreneur because Sisu is so early. We're
Mhm.
usually first money in, sometimes like pre PowerPoint, right? There's like two guys that we know wants to
All right.
start a
Here's the money.
company. Yeah, and we're like, here's the money.
Okay.
And then we help them with the deck. We help them find co-founders. We put everything together with them, and then we get to share in that level of excitement, multiplied by the number of portfolio companies. Which in Sisu has over the years invested in more than 70 companies.
Yeah.
So it really is a dream job.
Nice. Yeah. But besides, you know, uh, helping companies from the start, from the ground up, like what different skills and requirements do you need for, like, being a general partner at Sisu Ventures and being
Well,
able to execute well in that position?
I think Sisu is one of the oldest funds in the game space that was 100% investing in games, but was always doing it like a side project because Somali was
Okay.
starting companies.
Yeah.
Somali is a serial entrepreneur, right,
Yeah.
in the game space. I think he started like 7 or 8 companies. And Paul was a serial fund creator,
Okay.
starting funds here, incubators there.
Oh, nice.
So Sisu was always kind of like a side thing, but it was doing so well. Like the amount of money returned to investors and the kind of companies they invested in, it had amazing results. So they decided to like do this full time and bring
Mm,
me in. And I think they saw in me what they saw in themselves, which is a studio operator, like an
mm,
ex CEO
yeah.
of game studios. And Sisu is very unique in that respect. There are very few funds that have studio operators as the general partners. It's more people with finance background
Mm.
that come from the fund side. They're like, hey, games are hot. Let's
Yeah.
invest in games. But for those funds, I think it's a little bit harder to pick the winners based on, pre-product, pre-metrics, pre-everything,
Yeah. But then,
right?
like, how do you choose these people based on what? Because like someone close to you comes and like, hey, so we have this idea, and it's like, yeah, here's the money, and let's see what happens.
Yeah. No, exactly. I mean, so there's some repeat founders that come to
Mhm.
us that we have worked with shoulder to shoulder on
Yeah.
really tough projects. We know that they were carrying the project on their shoulders to the finish
Mm.
line.
Yeah.
And since then, and we've known them for 20 years, right? And since then, they've had a couple of exits and they've started other companies and they come to us and they go, we're thinking about starting a new company. And we're like, yes.
Yeah. 100%.
that's
Okay.
that's the easy part because we already know them. We know they're going to be successful.
Yeah.
Well, to put it this way, we don't know if they're going to be successful, but we know we want to work with them because we
Yeah.
know they're awesome. There's
Yeah,
no
and there are
guarantee.
higher chance of being successful because they've done it before.
Yeah.
Okay.
Other times we run into people that come through our network that we didn't know before, but we get to know them. We spend time with them. I've been sitting in on production meetings and stand-up meetings and people that we didn't know just to get to know them better, to
Mhm.
understand the company culture, the team
Yeah.
dynamics. And then we do obviously do more due diligence and we talk to a lot of people and things like that. But ultimately, um, most of the deals that we do come from people we know, network,
Mhm.
because I think I've hired in my 30 years in the industry, hired over 1,000 people, and
Yeah.
Somali similar. Paul
Yeah.
knows everybody. Paul is like a human router.
Okay.
So sometimes it's like you have a big network, but also after hiring that many people, you do get a feel
Mm.
for people and their personalities and how they would work together and how you would work with them and sort of in being able to talk to people. So in particular with Sisu, I think to become a general manager, you actually do need to have that studio operator
Mm.
background. I think at least that's the case for all three of the partners in the studio.
Okay. And when you mentioned well, you do the due diligence, of course. Well, you should you should do that. But how do you do your homework? Like, what's exactly the process? Well, you said you're sitting on the or well, you're having the daily stand ups and trying to be on the product meetings. What else? 'Cause this is interesting.
Well, it's kind of it starts with a clear vision,
Hmm.
um, and you can see that in the deck.
Yeah.
First
And
time they show the deck, they will say, this is what we want to achieve, right? And if it's not clear, that's a bad sign.
yeah.
So usually, what we would do then, we would drill down deep and see, do they really know what kind of company they want to build and what kind of games that they want to make? Because sometimes you can have a mediocre team come up with a really great idea and even get some early metrics that looks pretty promising,
Yeah.
but you know that they will find a way to screw it up versus a really good team with a mediocre idea. You know that they'll find a way to pivot away from that bad idea and find
Yeah.
something that works. So I know that's a cliche that everybody says, well, the team is important, but it is important. So
Of course. Yeah. 100%.
So
That's
the deck is kind of a reflection of the team. Um,
or
you would like to see 10 slides, 12 slides max. You would like to see a crystal clear vision, a large market, some homework done on what's unique and how they're going to defend their unique aspects,
can
and
can
company
can you give
culture.
me like example of very clear vision that you've seen in the pitch decks? That like, okay, so this is it. This is what I want to see in the pitch decks. Like this is exactly the vision the I wanna I want to see with the companies. So I don't know what was the like the best line in that deck that you said you thought that this is it. This is really strong. They know what they're talking about.
That's almost impossible to answer because
Okay.
everyone is different. Like
Yeah.
everyone is attacking a particular aspect of the industry.
Yeah.
But I would say lately there's a theme in the companies that we like when it come to us
Mm.
with a vision, especially if it's in mobile, and that is they're tackling the UA challenge, right?
Okay.
They're saying um, because of the changes that Apple made and Google are about to make, targeted marketing is now much more difficult and a lot more expensive. So we are trying something different. Like
Hmm.
we are collecting a bunch of free to play games
Mm.
and making them into a subscription, like a meta game pass, where you can earn bonuses and rewards across multiple games. And there's a rev share from the subscription, right?
Yeah.
They're trying to sort of work around this whole concept of UA is tough. And UA was always difficult,
Yeah, exactly.
but
So it's
now it's
always
even
always
harder.
hard. It is, and it's not gonna get any better. But
Yeah.
it's like everybody can make this excuse, like, well, we can't scale because well, UA is hard. These are the changes that Apple made and Google is going to make. So mobile is dead. But is it? Is it really the case?
We don't think so.
Okay, good, because I've been hearing this, especially when I was at PGC Helsinki conference. Everybody was
Yeah.
talking about, well, mobile free to play is dead. Well, I think so. It's not dead, but well, I would definitely love to hear your perspective on this.
Well, I think a lot of people said mobile free to play is dead in the beginning, even before it
Yeah,
started. There were a lot of people that were saying, "Oh, look, these are just Skinner boxes. Nobody with their in their right mind will actually play these games. You only pay to like reduce the pain of how terrible the games are."
yeah,
But we worked around that, right? We started making great games that had aggressive but worthwhile monetization. Like players felt like they were getting value out of the great games that did free to play monetization correctly. And I think the same thing is happening now. I love the fact that a lot of people are saying, "Oh, mobile free to play is dead. We are now only investing in PC and console or cross
yeah,
platform," and we're like, perfect.
yeah. There's more opportunity for
Yeah,
us believers in the free to play space and the mobile, especially.
yeah, exactly. And if you remember, when free to play blew up, there were some companies that were pioneers in that space that have that made great games. And it's not like in console and PC, you make a great game and then you have to do a sequel like in a few years to continue to make
Yeah,
money. It's the same games that are still there, still making money, still being number one. They've kind of found their fort, and they're able to defend it. And I think the same thing will happen in mobile free to play when people find the new way to scale
yeah,
great games. Um, it's the jury's still out on what that is. Is
yeah,
it some kind of viral ability? Is it something that is related to a different way of valuing players' input? Um, I don't really know. So we're kind of hedging our bets on
mm,
investing in several mobile studios,
Nice.
that are doing things differently. They're like, hey, we're doing it like this and we're trying this. And we'd be like, hey, that sounds kind of cool.
Yeah,
Let's
that's
try it.
great. Yeah, that's great. I've been hearing this. Well, since I'm the UA guy, obviously I'm hearing the UA challenges, and everybody says that the targeting whales and the big spenders is hard, and now it's mostly like impossible. Well, the traditional way of targeting is that for sure. I mean, from interest lookalikes and whatever you would use in the past, you can't use it on iOS. Most probably, you won't be able to use it on Google in a couple of years. But it's everything is shifting it into like data and event based targeting, where you can do the most probably like the similar stuff that you did before. It's just like you need to find a workaround. And I'm always
Mhm.
optimistic about the UA landscape, and I found it really really interesting, like how everything is changing. So yeah, I would always say it's hard. It's not gonna get any easier, but it's still possible to scale the game. But as you said, finding new ways how to do it.
Yeah.
So, but is the new way also like blockchain gaming? That's a question. Are you investing in like games in like Web3 space, or planning to do that kind of investments?
We do.
Okay.
Uh, a couple of studios, we got into Web3 because we had already invested in the companies because we loved the team and the games
Yeah.
that we're making that were free to play for mobile, right? So, and they were like, hey, actually, our game is perfectly suited
Yeah.
for Web3. And we would like to build a layer that is,
Mm.
it's not, it doesn't feel like incompatible with the game in any way. It really
Yeah.
enhances the game. So we've done a couple of those. We sort of fell into it backwards.
Hmm.
We've also made some investments in Web3 companies that were, um, again, our investment thesis is we invest in great founders. So they
Right.
just happened to be great founders that we knew and wanted to work with. And they said to us they want to do Web3. And so we were like, okay,
Yeah. All right.
you know. And
Yeah.
it's interesting because when we were raising money for the fund,
Yeah.
I think most entrepreneurs forget the fact that the VCs that are sitting on the other side of the video conference have been doing exactly what you're doing right now, like going out asking for money, coming up with a pitch, clear vision. How are you going to earn money? What is your investment thesis? And our investment thesis was a little bit difficult for some LPs or
Yeah.
investors to
Yeah.
understand because we said, well, we go where the founders go. And they'd be like, well, what if they want to do VR? And then we said, well, then,
Yeah.
they'll do VR.
We support them. Okay.
Yeah. Um, so in some cases, that turned into an amazing company like Resolution Games. Is one of the market leaders in VR publishing
Yeah.
now. And they were profitable every year through the VR nuclear
Nice.
winter because they were a good team,
Yeah.
right? So that's kind of how we look at it when it comes to Web3 as well.
Okay.
We probably wouldn't invest in a Web3 company just because we were like, hey, this is a quick buck. This is a speculative,
Yeah.
awesome
Big
Web3
hype.
economy. Yeah, let's jump in and out. We're thinking, 7 to 10 years
Mm.
horizon. So, but we do think, just like free to play didn't make any sense to people when it started, we're thinking that NFTs, Web3, blockchain, play to earn, whatever it is you want to call it, does introduce a new concept that is compelling. Like if you would ask any person that plays a lot of games today, you would say, would you want to pay for a game or would you want to make money playing a game?
Mm.
Most people would choose the latter if the game is good. If that was the two competitive elements, one you have to pay up front or pay after you started playing, and the other one you can earn money if you're playing. That is enough to me to say there's something there, even if it hasn't been done the right way yet,
Mm.
which free to play wasn't done well in the beginning either.
Of course. It's an evolution. Uh, that's
Exactly.
how it goes. It needs to start somewhere. And it's super new. But so you're not looking like for companies, but rather than like founders. Is
Uh-huh.
would that be right? Okay. And so what kind of what are you looking for when trying to invest in different stages? I mean, or is it only like the pre PowerPoint, or you are investing in different stages afterward in the companies?
So we do pre-PowerPoint, we do pre-seed.
Okay.
Pre-seed is usually they've created their own deck.
Yeah.
They have a co-founding team, and they have an idea for what they want to
Mm,
do. Right,
okay.
that's a pre-seed round.
Yeah.
The pre-PowerPoint round is what we call built by Sisu, which is almost like a incubator in a
All
way.
right. Okay.
It's just one or two guys with an idea, and then we can add like another three, four, five co-founders to that team. We will help them recruit their co-founding team. We will help them put the deck together, and we will help them raise the money.
Mm,
Which I think we're the only fund in the world that does that. I think.
nice.
We also do seed rounds where we are not the first money in,
Hmm.
or even the second round. Sometimes people do like a pre-seed or a pre-seed.
Yeah.
We do seed rounds. We can also do a Series A, which is after seed,
Yeah.
but that normally doesn't happen. It would be
Mm,
because we have a founder that that was outside of our network, but
mm,
really wants to be a part of the Sisu family because
okay.
they've heard from other founders that holy crap, this is really cool. Like a bunch of people helping each
Yeah.
other within the portfolio. That they want to be a part of this, and they reach out to us and they say, "Hey, do you want to write a small check and be part of our journey?" And then we're like,
Okay.
"Yeah, we can do that."
Nice. Okay. Then, so you're working very close with founders with this like pre PowerPoint stage. Like, what would be the advice for these guys, even if they're not in the Sisu family yet? Like, what should they do just to be prepared for? Well, the best prepared for taking the VC money or just to start a company.
Yeah. Most important thing I would say, other than clarity of vision, would be a balanced co-founding team.
Mm, okay.
As a UA expert, if you wanted to start a company, you know a lot of UA people. You would be very tempted to recruit some of the best UA people that you
No,
have.
no
No?
way, no way, no way. Of course.
Okay. Well, we often.
Why would I do that? I mean, it wouldn't be, like you said, very balanced. I would need let's say, I would start with the like CTO, I guess, and
Mhm.
then the product guy, and then who else would I need?
Well, you would be surprised to know that you do need a business guy, and
Oh
often
yeah, okay, I guess, right, okay.
often we see programmers. If it's a programmer heavy
Yeah,
founding team, they like to hire other programmers. They're like,
yeah,
oh, he's our product guy, and we're looking at his background. He's like, well, he's been a programmer, and
yeah,
he
okay,
was a director of technology. Where's the product experience? Oh,
okay,
but
yeah,
he also right. Um, Artists are very familiar with other artists. They tend to, if the CEO is an artist, they tend to be
yeah.
very art heavy. So,
Hmm.
well, the number one thing we remind people of how important it is to have the business person, UA, the technology, the design, and the art. You need to
Mm.
have all of those, and it is a good idea to have them all at the same level.
Okay.
That they
Why?
all
Why is the same level important?
Because if let's say you feel that UA is not that important, but technology is, so you have a CTO, and
Mm.
then you have a manager of UA,
Yeah.
right? All of a sudden, you're showing by titles and responsibility within the organization that technology is much more important. But if you have
But
at the C level, same level, or director level, they're all the same level, that means every single part of the disciplines,
yeah.
they balance each other out and they're equally important.
But you could argue that the UA is not that important in the like first stage because well, you could hire someone on the UA side. I mean, and then just to help out with the rest of the founders with any like marketability test pre or research or whatever.
Well, that's why we like it when a team does have a UA, a senior UA
Yeah,
person from the very beginning, because
yeah,
it signals the fact that they take it seriously,
yeah. And they think
and
about like
B,
how to make it work.
yeah, and it's you can't replace marketability testing with a prototype that's live and that you can get better measurements from, but you can
Yeah,
get an idea, you can get a hint on whether the theme or the concept or the core gameplay or the progression. I mean, a lot of this stuff can be faked in
mm,
ads
yeah,
and can be exposed to your target audience or
yeah.
different audiences, so you can make a lot more educated guesses on where it is that you're going, and you therefore can get a lot of answers much sooner.
Yeah, I totally understand. But I usually see companies and founders, it's more like you said, either like programmer or a product team. And then the UA comes afterwards. They build the prototype, and then afterwards they see like, oh well, now what? Now we need to get someone from the outside to help us with the UA. Then they find out it's like CPIs are super high because well they have a niche game and they didn't think about
Exactly.
the market options.
Yeah.
Well, okay, but then what would be can you explain like how the gaming VC model or business works? Like how many home runs do you need to hit to like per failure, and like how's the ratio looks like?
Well, it's interesting because every time we invest in a company, we think that that is the company that's going to pay back the whole fund,
Of course.
which never happens, obviously.
It's yeah. Okay.
Nobody's betting 1,000. Um, but you should invest and only invest in companies that you do think could pay back the entire
Yeah.
fund with one exit.
Yeah.
And that becomes a little bit of a filter for the
Mm.
kind of companies you invest in, because there's so many cute companies. They are
Of course. Yeah.
cute and cozy, and you can tell that the founders, they are in it for the lifestyle.
Yeah. Okay.
They want to make a game that makes enough money that they don't have to grow and makes a nice profit, and it's a pure love project.
Yeah.
And I think it's amazing. I think the industry needs those games,
Yeah.
and I love that they are existing and that they're able to make the wheels turn on that. But it doesn't fit the VC model. So there are quite a few companies that we have to say no to because we're like, hey, we want to play the game and we love what you guys are doing. We just can't invest in you because of the way that you see the world. So it's very important that we invest in companies that we think can be $1 billion company.
Mm.
Sisu one, I think, invested in a company that did become $1 billion company by the end, which was Small Giant.
Yeah.
I think by the time all the earnouts were paid out by Zynga, it was just over $1 billion, I think. So it is possible, and that's kind of how we look at it. But we know that most likely, if we invest in 30, 40 companies in
Yeah.
this fund, there's probably only one that can have that
Mm.
kind of returns.
Yeah.
But then the
Yeah.
hope is that only 10 or so will fail.
Yeah.
10 or so will be plugging along, but maybe just like an acquihire.
Yeah.
10 of them will be very successful, and then one, will do like some crazy number.
Yeah. Crazy number. And when do you think it's better to take like VC money, and when is the better to just bootstrap the company? I mean, like, what are the pros and cons?
If you can bootstrap, if you can find money somewhere or do some other jobs on the side and build your company with your own sweat,
Mm.
it's always better to a point.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, if you if you come to a VC and all you have is a deck and everyone on your co-founding team is working somewhere else, they didn't quit their jobs yet,
Yeah.
they didn't put any skin in the game, it's not super attractive.
Of course.
But if you've been like, hey, I've been working two jobs on the side and we've been working on this for 6 months, we have a playable prototype that has, and we only focused on day one retention. We didn't care about anything else. And this is what we got. And now we're thinking, this is a unique opportunity we would like to scale. We've found like 5 people that we would like to bring on. We'd like to scale the company, and we would like to build a real business around our unique skill set, whatever that is. That's very attractive,
Okay.
and it's the right time to raise money. I don't think there are many examples of
Mm.
studios that were able to soft launch, then launch without raising money, or worse, doing publishing deals. Like the worst thing you can do, in my opinion, is to work with a mobile publisher because they, with milestone payments, which is probably what they would give you, they take over control over the project. Even the best ones that are trying to be nice to developers, just because you have a milestone deliverable with a check attached to it, you're going to
Mm.
develop the game according to what that milestone says, and not the things that you notice when the game is being built that it needs. So,
Yeah,
um,
I hear horror stories from
yeah,
developers, smaller, mid-size, doesn't matter that much, that work with mobile game publisher because they were not experienced enough, and they listened to them, got some interesting numbers on paper, but then eventually got screwed because, like you said, they took over the game, and then eventually they wanted to start self-publishing, and then they started self-publishing because, well, it didn't make sense, and they wanted to divorce from this relationship as soon as they
yeah.
could.
We do make some premium game investments as well. And in that case, what we will do is that we will invest money into the game. They will build the game until maybe pre-alpha with a couple of rounds of investments from different VCs that we would usually start the process and help them raise the money. They get to pre-alpha. We take them to Sony and Microsoft,
Mm.
and sometimes to Epic, and we say, are you interested in the timed exclusive 6 months for X millions of dollars, depending on how attractive the game is, which then should be enough to get to beta, probably. And at beta, when you have the exclusive deal done with the platforms and you've raised enough money to build out the entire game, only then do you talk to a publisher.
Mm.
You're like 6 to 9 months away from the release date, and then you talk to publishers, but you pitch them against each other, and you say, these are the terms. Are you willing to do it or not? They're basically becoming distributors of your game at that point, and they have to pay an upfront fee, a minimum guarantee. If you have a really good game, you could get like some pretty nice funds from that would fund you like halfway into your next game. So at that point, you no matter what your game does in terms of sales, you're already ready for your next game. In mobile, it's a little bit different, but in console and PC, that is kind of what the publishers are useful for, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, publishers are very different topic to unpack. I think it's always interesting to talk to small and mid-sized developers about their experiences. But is there from your side, is there like a regret or biggest regret of a company that you actually passed on and didn't invest, and now it's like, oh well, we should, but we pulled out. Is there a company like that?
No.
Okay.
There was one company that looked like it should have been that we should have regretted not investing in them.
Yeah.
I think that I can't remember the name exactly. I think it was 1047. Do you remember that?
Yeah. I
They
know.
did that. Uh, it's a shooter with the
Shooter game.
Portal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And now
and
they closed the game as well.
yeah.
Uh,
So, but when I think they raised a bunch of money at 100 million valuation or
yeah.
something like that in the next round. We were looking at them in the previous round
Mhm.
and thought about it, but decided in the end not to do it. Not because we didn't like the founders, we just didn't know them that well.
Okay. Yeah.
And it was very early in Fund Three, so we were still like trying to figure out
Mhm.
exactly what we should be doing. But for a couple of months there, when they were like shooting up it looked like they were unstoppable, and millions of downloads. At that point, we were a little bit like, did we miss something? Was it, and it could still be that they're going to be incredibly successful because they've
Mm.
raised a lot of money. They're completely reset and they're starting from scratch, which may turn out to be a very smart decision, right? So I think that would be the only one that we passed on that I would like keep an eye on for the future to see if maybe we missed one.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I have like two last questions. Oh, well, one last question, and then there's the rapid quiz segment I like to do. So the question is like, what's your favorite book, and why?
Well, it's it's a little bit difficult to choose. I
Okay.
will give you my three favorites, and then I'll
Perfect.
pick one of them.
Okay.
So, Creativity Inc.
Mm-hmm.
by the CEO of Pixar. It's a very good book. Zero to One, Peter Thiel. It's a very good book. And then Built to Last is also a very good book. And they're all kind of around the same theme of organizational structures that work really well. And part of the reason why is that in Sisu's invested in some companies that you would almost call them social experiments more
Mm.
than mobile game studios. Lightheart is an example of a company where it's extremely flat organizational structure. There basically is none.
Yeah.
Um, People can check in changes to the game if they want to. They can ask. They'll ask for advice. They have the advice model, but if they feel strongly that this is going to make the game better, they just do it. And a lot of stuff around, like extreme openness
Mm.
around financials and salaries. People pick their own salaries, things like that, which is very different. So we like when companies are trying different things, like teal
Mhm.
organizations
Yeah.
or extremely flat, or experimenting with not just making great games, but making great organizations that can make great games. But if I had to pick a favorite of those three, it would be Creativity Inc. I think.
Okay. I thought you would say a build to last, but okay. That's definitely my favorite book.
Ah,
Uh,
okay, cool. It's a close choice between those three.
Okay, yeah. Pretty much. All right. So this is like the rapid quiz I like, which is like a set of multiple questions. Not worry, it's like 5 questions. You need to answer in like 1 or 2 seconds. So if I ask you like, what would you choose, like black or white, and you answer, what
White,
would you? Okay, perfect. So okay, for what would you choose? It's or yeah, what would you choose? Console or mobile?
mobile,
Okay, Bulletstorm or Mafia 3?
Bulletstorm.
Okay, smaller teams or bigger teams?
Smaller teams.
Okay, Czech Republic or United States?
Czech Republic.
Okay, Disney or Sisu Ventures?
Sisu Ventures.
Okay, okay, that's it, Erik. And thanks a lot for the discussion. Yeah, well, can you share like any contact details for audience, so if they can or they want to reach you, where they can?
Yeah, you can go to our website, which is sisu.vc. That's a
Nice.
good place to start. We tried to explain kind of what we're looking for and
Mhm.
what's important and what we believe in, like clarity of vision, right? I've been saying it a lot today. We
Yeah.
expect that from portfolio companies, but it's the same thing for Sisu. We follow great entrepreneurs.
Mm.
We support them and help them in any way we possibly can. That's our singular vision. Try
Nice.
and help the industry be a better place. So that's a good place to reach out and get in contact with us from there.
Perfect. Again, thank you very much for coming. I really enjoyed it. All right.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
It was great.
Nice. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.